Happy New Comic Book Day, geeks, and welcome to issue 67 of the Script Heroes podcast. I'm Katie.
And I'm Joseph, and today we're going to be talking about 5 new polls for all of you. Those polls are Batman and Robin, issue 19, Batman Dark Patterns, issue 4, The Moon is Following Us, issue 7, Void Rivals, issue 17, and mine is A Long Lonesome Grave, issue number 2.
That's right. Be sure to hit subscribe to add our show to your pull list, and let's jump into Batman. Batman and Robin, number 19. This is coming to us from writer Philip Kennedy Johnson of Action Comics and Green Lantern War Journal, and the artist Javier Fernandez of Nightwing, Magneto, and King Spawn. The colorist is Marcello Maiolo, and the letterer is Steve Wands. Jay, we've been pretty hype on the Memento story going on in Batman and Robin. The tension between Bruce and Damian has been a little hit or miss, but a lot of hit. We've got kind of a pre-climactic issue here, a pretty dramatic one to get to the end of this. I think just before the end of the story arc. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. How'd you feel?
I feel the need to start where I feel like we've started a lot of it. Damian's age is still all over the place.
It is.
How young he looks here! Somehow he looks the youngest now in this issue that he's ever looked.
Which, I think is the age they should be shooting for. Here's my hot take. I think that if the fill artist had gone younger with him, because I think that's when it started, was the fill artist making him look like 16 instead of 12.
Yeah.
I think that
I just think now he looks even younger than Javier Fernandez had been drawing.
What I'm saying is that I think that if we didn't have the extreme upswing on the age, this downswing wouldn't feel as weird, especially because he's in his civilian clothes. It's just
wild to me. I don't want to harp on it, but it's just I feel like this is the plague of reading books with Damian, that he's just gonna be kind of all over the place.
But normally you'd expect that between arcs or between series.
Yeah,
not necessarily between issues.
Same arc on the same book. Yeah. In the overarching thing, I don't love the way that this follows up kind of where we ended the previous issue.
Mm-hmm.
Because we end the previous issue with, Damian saying that he's going to remain Robin until Memento's caught, but with a big "I'm done being Robin" moment. So to open on him and Batman just working together,
right? I feel like the vibe you get from after I catch Memento, I'm done being Robin,
is that he's gonna go do it on his own.
Exactly. And is that he's not doing other Robin stuff while he's doing that. It's I'm gonna use Robin to catch Memento.
Weren't on great terms, and we get some of that here, but it's much more played as you're not fathering well enough, rather than a big split. Mm-hmm. So it was a very weird follow-up to me. And then even there's a lot of good in the Memento plot line. There's some cool visuals, you know.
Yeah.
And some cool moments. But I think the Memento plot in general is just starting to drag a little bit for me, particularly in this issue.
6 issues now? 7 issues? Something like that?
I think 6.
Yeah, so it's really, it has overstayed its welcome for sure.
Yeah, 6. I think we started on 14,
mm-hmm.
which would be 6 issues. So it's starting to drag for me. This was not one of my favorite issues of Batman and Robin.
Mine either. Yeah, I think the thing that I did like is I do like Bruce and Damian interacting in a we are at Wayne Manor in our civilian clothes. I thought that Bruce's attempt to be kind of nice and be yeah, we could have a cheat day worked actually really well. I think that really helped me with the whole it's that thing where even if Damian stops being Robin, he's still Damian Wayne, he's still there as Bruce's son, but that relationship is also strained and different because of the Robin Batman conflict. So I liked that scene in particular quite a bit. And I liked the way that Batman is acting about the other Doctor. I think that was a really good plot line where you do get this sense of is Batman overstepping and kind of Batmaning his way to justifying why he's a bad father, or is is he, you know, right? And this guy is bad. I do think we get a bit of a resolution to that at the end of this that I won't speak on,
Yeah.
but that does come a little quick for me. Like I know that we've had this character floating around for a while, but the fact that we only just
It
now
feels
got
like, yeah,
like good
the,
investigation into him
exactly.
feels like it resolved a little quick.
And he only really felt like he got anything to do significant in the issue before this one. So
Exactly.
yeah, I agree with you on that. I did like overall the climax of this issue. I thought
Yes.
the actual ending
Hmm.
sequence was very good.
Yeah, very
And well,
reminiscent of something else that I thought
yeah, yes,
kind of like semi justified. Not really. The a choice in a previous issue feels like it was done to make this feel more impactful, and I think that that worked, even though it doesn't quite justify what happened in that previous issue. I'm
yeah,
being a little vague, so I don't give too much of a hint about what the conclusion is.
yeah.
But if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about.
You know,
Yeah.
people know, people know.
People know. But yes, not the best issue of Batman and Robin that's come out,
No.
but it has been a pretty high bar. It's been a pretty good series so far. What have you thought of Batman and Robin? Who do you like to see at Bruce's side? Or, if you're like me, do you prefer Bruce not in the cowl and make a dick and then he can hang out with Damian? Who's your favorite Batman and Robin duo? Let us know down below. But now, it's time to talk about even more Batman. You ready for Dark Patterns?
Let's do it. Batman Dark Patterns, issue 4. This is coming from writer Dan Waters of Nightwing, Lucifer, and the Six Fingers. The artist is Hayden Sherman of Absolute Wonder Woman, Chicken Devil, and Detective Comics. The colorist is Triona Farrell, and the letter is Frank Kvetovich. Katie, you've been very high
Yes.
on this series. As I've enjoyed a lot, but yeah, this has really been in your wheelhouse. And we're starting a new arc after
Starting a new
I
arc,
think
yeah.
neither one of us was super thrilled about the
The
ending of the last
conclusion,
arc.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a
But
little
how?
disappointing,
Yeah.
but I've still really enjoyed it, and a big part of that is because of what a big fan of Hayden Sherman's art I am. And I feel like just from this first issue alone, you get to see a lot of great, like, kind of Hayden
Layout.
Sherman trippy art, which I've been so excited. It's what I've been missing as they've been doing more work with the big two. Like, I feel like they do such a good job with making, like, really weird looking stuff. And we've certainly got some weird looking stuff. Like this was a
Oh
really
yeah.
cool issue to read because a lot of this is based on like the architecture of this building, and I think that Hayden Sherman was able to put like a lot of on page feeling for that. Like I feel confused alongside Batman because the building doesn't feel right, and that's very much done on purpose because of the way that this building acts in the narrative. I also think that it was a really fun just concept in general to go into.
Yeah.
Like the idea of this entire building of civilians kind of, you know, falling under gang territory and like that becoming sort of a bastion and a stronghold. I think especially if they're sticking with the three issue arcs, then this will be a really fun one to essentially bottle episode in. Like I think that that is a perfect amount of time to deal with the problem of this tower, and I think that if they do it cleanly and if they do it, quickly and in that three issue timeline, it's going to be like a really really cool, unique, and memorable Batman story.
Yeah.
I'm super duper excited.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of what you said. This was definitely one where like Hayden Sherman really went ham on the layouts. Like,
Oh yeah,
yeah, it was a wild issue, which, with it all being in this one building, makes a lot of sense. It works really, really well, and it's very cool.
oh
It's a
yeah,
great conceptual issue, and I am also very excited to see where this arc goes. I think this was a great start for it. I don't
oh yeah.
know how much we want to, talk about some of
Yeah,
the
there's a lot
outlandish
of there's a
Batman.
lot of
Yeah,
mystery going on because Dan Waters, we saw it with the Six Fingers, and we're seeing it with Nightwing as well. Dan Waters is leaning into being like a mystery writer,
yeah.
so
This is
I'm yeah,
yeah.
it's good vibes to have because they're
And this is
good
a
like
very
kind of
like
actiony mystery.
this is a very back loaded issue.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
so a lot of
um,
spoilers come towards the end.
Yeah, and like most of the stuff I feel like I want to talk about come after the thing that I think you don't reveal here.
Yeah,
So, We won't reveal it. But
We
yeah,
won't
this
reveal
is a
it.
very, very good issue. I have one complaint that is not for the creative team. Um, but
What DC do?
I gotta call it out because I feel like I'm always on Marvel's case for this. It has to do with
Uh-huh.
the ads. Because there is an ad in this issue between the last 2 pages of the book. Like, what the fuck is that? That is awful. It is awful to the point that I almost missed the last page of the book, and just because the second last page feels like it could be the last page, I almost missed the last page of this book because there was an ad on the right hand side there.
I
Awful.
do feel that it's
Why would you put an ad
interesting.
there?
Let me tell you, I think I know why. I think it's to give like a double page turn, which is dumb and bad, but that's the only
Well, I
reason I can
actually
think.
went back and I noticed it wasn't nearly as frustrating. I noticed it was the same thing in Batman and Robin this month. There was an ad between the last 2 pages. So I don't know if this
Never
is just a
mind
new
then.
thing that DC is doing. That they decided that they're sticking ads there now. But please don't.
Terrible
That's an
place to put
awful
ads.
place.
Yeah. Like, way to interrupt the momentum
Yeah.
on what's
Like, there's
supposed
so
to
much-
make you feel like you want to
Yeah.
keep going and come back for more.
They're typically so much better than Marvel with one, the placement, and two, certainly with the number. They do
Oh,
not have
yeah,
nearly
yeah.
as many ads within the story as Marvel does. But they're usually so much better than Marvel with the placement. Marvel will stick it in the middle of like a fight scene or something. DC usually much better about that. Until now, they're just shoving it between the last 2 pages of the book.
That
What
is
are you
concerning.
doing?
I didn't even think about the fact that it was in both books. I wonder if maybe it's just a Batman book thing. They're like, people will come back for the next one anyway.
Honestly, because it is, I don't know actually. Is it the
I think
Hush
it was
ad or was the Hush
Absolute
ad
Man-
somewhere else? Okay, no.
It was Absolute Martian and Manhunter.
Okay, yeah.
For this one.
I knew the Hush ad was in here, and I was like, maybe they just wanted to throw the Batman. Yeah, the Hush ad. I always find ads for like the same character book to be just weird in a book because it's just like, oh, there's the. Oh no, that's not anything to do.
Right? It's like when they used to do those Snicker bars ads. Do you remember those? And they would have like comic artists draw them, and it would be like Superman and Batman fighting Doomsday, and then they give Doomsday a Snickers and it's Wonder Woman.
I know. I remember from the Rebirth era when all the ads were just for like TV shows and movies of DC, and I was like,
yeah.
This feels like the wrong orientation of those. Like, I feel like most people reading the comics are watching material, whereas most of the people watching the other material aren't reading the comics.
Well,
so,
the problem is I don't know that anyone will buy comic book ad space anymore. So, like, in-house ads are where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. But in any case, we have more books to talk about.
It's time starting to talk
about.
Mine is a long and lonesome grave.
Lonesome grave. But first, tell us how you feel about ads in comic books. In the comments down below.
Mine is a long and lonesome grave. This is coming to us from writer Justin Jordan of The Strange Talent of Luther Strode, Dead Body Road, and Green Lantern New Guardians. And the artist is Chris Sheehan of House of Slaughter, Dark Empty Void, and The Autumnal. The colorist is Alessandro Santoro, and the letter is Micah Myers. Jay, we were a little a little hesitant on issue 1, if I remember correctly. Like, it was a little heavy for a first issue.
Yeah, I think we had said, like, it was that thing where, like, it left a lot open. There was a lot of, like, mystery type stuff, a lot of unanswered questions. So it was going to be highly dependent on what was to come. And this is another, like, interesting issue. Like, it's one, it's full of these fantastic, striking visuals.
Yes, gorgeous.
Like, yeah, Chris Sheehan just does a phenomenal job with like all of these trippy kind of witchcrafty things, and even when it's not witchcraft, like just the brutality of this book feels very visceral.
It's like really beautiful violence.
Yeah. There's something cool that happens later in the issue that I feel like I probably shouldn't talk about. I don't know how late. It's in the middle of the issue. I'm gonna talk about it. He collapses a like mine shaft on top of a group of people, which I loved. I thought
and there's this really great visual of him using, I believe, magic to escape the mine and like crawling out of the ground. Very spooky, very good.
Yeah, it's wild, man. You get that full Jason Todd clawed out of his own grave moment there. And then you get this great visual that I thought you were calling out of like the inside the mine view as the like light closes in.
Horrifying.
Beautiful. Genuinely something that's like using the medium so well. Is it's like, oh, you can do all this with negative space, and then fantastic. Love that. this also has like a thing that I love, which is that sort of, this is not like a revenge story, but it has the revenge story like structure of going after an organization and like just
Mm-hmm.
taking out people.
Yeah.
So I love that. That is a very good vibe for me to follow. Um, there's still a lot of questions, and it's one of those things where it's like there's the good and bad of like not knowing everything that's going on and not knowing like everything in the world. It allows for you to reveal a lot and for a lot to come
Mm-hmm.
out later, but it makes it sometimes a little harder to buy in with what you've currently got. So yeah, that's where I'm at with this issue. I'm still very intrigued, and I think this issue especially gets through a lot of just the entertainment of seeing
Oh
him
yeah.
like go and take out these people. That's
Mm-hmm.
most of what this issue like delivers on.
Yeah.
Um,
It's most
but
of
yeah,
what the
there's a
issue
lot to be
is.
answered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
There's a lot to come to like really. It's still in that mode of like what comes later. I think is going to really decide how I feel about this.
Yeah, and I already feel not generous with that concept in an issue 1, and I feel even worse with it in an issue 2, where I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, we're in issue 2, what is this going to be, 4, 5, 6 issues? I feel like in comics, it's such a better force to front load that stuff, because someone isn't
absolutely.
sitting down to watch your movie, so they're not, consuming it all over the course of 2 hours.
Yeah,
It's, okay, I didn't know what was happening last month, and like the visuals are really cool and I like the crumbs of world building, and then this month it's like, okay, really cool visuals, but like the world building is what I think is what makes this book feel unique, and like this aspect of like the weird witchcraft curse and like the really kind of Appalachian feeling folklore and mysticism, and I'm like, I want more of that. Like I want more of what makes the book feel unique. And
yeah.
other than like crawling out of the thing and like in darkness attacking, we don't get a whole lot of, the
No, we get a
witchcraft going
little.
on.
We get a little of like the lore of how like the curse on him works to
I
some
believe
extent
that's
in this.
repeated lore from last time though. The fact that he
I
has to go after Granny.
I knew that, but I thought I don't remember them going into the specifics of like how it drains him or whatever. They went into that a little bit here. I don't remember if
I
that was
think we
that might
knew
have
that
been
it
it.
put a timer on his head, but
Okay. Um, you
yeah,
could be
so I
right. It's
feel
been a
like
month.
I am the thing that really punched this book up in issue 1 was the incredibly strong starting visual, that kind of like record scratch, bet you want to know
Oh
how I
yeah,
got here thing.
yeah.
And I feel like we didn't get a great resolution to that in the first issue. And then in this issue, I'm like, okay, now we're just kind of, on this high octane adventure, which is just kind
Yeah.
of not what I was bought into on the story,
No, that's very
which makes
fair.
it very tough for me.
Yeah, I think there's also some amount that like this is one of those books that I at least I'm getting the vibe is really feeling like one of those written for the trade
Yeah.
type books where it's like this feels like it's probably going to be one of those things where you get one like very much one story that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really like segmented in a way to
Right.
keep
Yeah.
you satisfied in each issue. Um, so yeah, I don't know how that'll play out, but yeah, it's an interesting second issue. I think it leans into a lot of like how satisfied are you just by getting like kind of the violence in this issue
Mm-hmm.
and not getting any of your questions answered.
And if all they had promised at the beginning was violence, I'd be very happy.
Very fair. But yeah, what's your take on books that are written for the trade versus a single issue satisfaction?
Yeah, it's certainly a growing trend in the comics
Yeah, it
industry.
is.
But talking about books that are written for the issue, are you ready to talk about The Moon is Following Us?
Let's do it. The Moon is Following Us, issue 7. Writer and artist on this book is Daniel Warren Johnson of Transformers Do a Powerbomb and Wonder Woman Dead Earth. The other and main artist on the book is Riley Rossimo of Harley Quinn, Detective Comics, and Bedlam. The colorist is the great Mike Spicer. And the letter is Sean Lee.
Yeah.
Katie,
Yeah.
we have, I think it is fair to say, absolutely loved pretty much every single issue of The Moon is Following Us.
Oh, yeah.
So,
oh, yeah.
as things get real intense in this series, as I think we talked about last issue already, talk to me about issue 7.
I fucking love this. I think to start, big shout to Riley Rossmo. We get a lot of really, really fun, like, dream world shit going on in
Oh
this.
yeah.
Like, a fox becomes Sam's aunt.
Oh.
Exactly, yeah. We see those really fun weapons. We meet more of the nightmares. And all of them have such
I love the
strong
nightmares.
designs that, like, immediately communicate everything you need to know about them. And I also want to give a huge shout to, as Jay said, the great Mike Spicer. The bold and beautiful colors in this issue are insane. This book has been nothing but
Mike
fun to
Spicer is
read.
just a fucking legend.
Yeah.
Like,
And
oh
it
my
does
god.
such a huge service to the difference between the dreamland and the real world, because we
Oh
cut to
yeah.
Tash there a few times. It is so absolutely gorgeous. The relationship between Sam and Duncan, I feel, is done so incredibly well
I knew
across
you were gonna
this
be excited that we
series.
got more of that in this
I
issue.
was
I
so
think
excited about
that
it.
was what you were down on in like the last two
Yeah,
issues, I want to say.
because they've been very focused on other things, which is fair. But I think the fact that Daniel Warren Johnson was so careful to, even when they were like fighting and squabbling and clearly coming at their daughter's weird death condition from different angles, it never felt like they didn't love each other, which means that as they start to, come together in this issue and, like,
Yeah.
work together and show that they love each other again, it doesn't feel hollow because it never felt like they stopped loving each other. So it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like they need some sort of grand apology thing to get back to a point where they like love and care about each other, which is really really beautifully done, and I think truly the strongest point of this book. And you showed the back of it there. We also get more of them with Penny before before she goes into the dream
Yes,
curse
right there
world.
at that first page. Daniel Warren Johnson,
And
man.
every single time we get them interacting with their daughter, it is so sweet. It does such a good job of making you feel for their plight as parents. Like, this is clearly a family that has so much love in it. And they're able to communicate that through just a few choice scenes that I think works super, super duper well. In case you couldn't tell, I really like this issue. How did you feel about it?
It's fantastic. I think we've talked like this is just such a comic book. Like
Yes.
it makes use of the medium so ridiculously well. It feels like Daniel Warren Johnson and Riley Rossimo have such a love for the medium and for what they're doing. It's so carefully crafted. Like it feels like every step of this was well planned out and then also very well executed on.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a book that within this issue gives you those heartfelt moments of them with their kid and then gives you ridiculously dark moments, and the ending of this issue is crazy.
Oh.
And it's also fun, and you get things like the fox, and like the funny thing is you can actually start to like predict what's going to happen there because of the way things have gone in the previous issue. When you hear her say that her daughter loved foxes, even though then you see this fox like latch onto it like it's going to bite her, you hear, oh, she loved foxes, that means this is going to be a good thing in this world.
Yes.
So like it plays on that stuff so well, and it also has just this epic grandiose feel to it. As we're, I guess, over 2/3 of the way done with the series.
10 issues.
Three issues left.
Oh.
But they've done such a phenomenal job at every single step of the way. We've talked about it before, how this is like in a world in which people say there's no unique ideas left. Like this feels like such a unique idea and such a unique comic
Absolutely.
book. So yeah, this is just utterly fantastic, and I don't know another way to put it.
Can never give enough props to the Moose following us.
No, whole team, fantastic.
Yeah. How do you feel about a bombastic creative thing like this in a world of, remakes and adaptations? Do you think that this is something that people should be going out of their way to buy into to encourage that? Or do you think, you just want to see another Batman book?
And in a world of adaptations, this should get a fucking adaptation.
Oh my god, yes.
Get that. I know this didn't come out through Skybound, weirdly, when most of Daniel Warren Johnson's stuff does. But get that Skybound animation team on this after Invincible. Like, boom.
Yes,
let's get an animated show.
But speaking of Skybound, we have one book left, and that is Void Rivals.
Let's do it.
Void Rivals, number 17. This is coming to us from writer Robert Kirkman of Invincible, The Walking Dead, and Oblivion Song, and artist Lorenzo De Felici of Oblivion Song and Chroma. The colorist is Patricio Del Peche, and the letterer is Russ Wooten. Jay, Void Rivals, what a hit. We're moving more and more into the crossover with the Transformers, though, which has been historically a bit of a sticking point for us. How did you
Yes,
feel?
but we have talked about when it comes out organically
Yes.
versus when like we're kind of jumping to it. We had answers,
Oh, yeah.
and like
Big ones.
a metric fuck ton of answers in this issue. Like there is a lot of lore put on you. We finally meet Zerda, which is kind of how we get to all of that, which is not a spoiler. It's
Yes.
literally, I mean, it was the ending of the last issue, and it's right there at the
Mm-hmm.
start of this one. Yeah, we get a lot. This issue is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The backstory is pretty cool. I'm guessing better if you are a Transformers fan.
And you know what the Age of Wrath is or whatever.
Yeah, but there's still like some sick stuff going on in it. And then we do kind of come back to our characters for certain points of it, or at least we come back to like their world. And then we do go back to Derek actually pretty closely. As he interacts more with his father, and we get, I guess we get the reason why that conversation was delayed a little bit was because we needed, unless we wanted the reveal to come in that way instead of through Zerda, we needed to wait until the reveal came from Zerda to have that conversation. So it makes a lot of logical sense. And we finally get that conversation, and it's rad. Like, really, Kirkman knows how to build these interactions between these big characters that have been built up to. It's really exciting. I don't want to spoil something that goes on with the other side of the planet towards the end of this issue, but that was super
so
rad.
Great. Like,
oh my god,
we saw the buddings of it in the last issue. And the flower that has grown, phenomenal. Like, humanizing in a way that I wasn't expecting it to be.
Oh my god, yeah. And it's what, because like we talked about, I think in the last issue, maybe the one before, like how we gotten these like extra threats stacked up. This one just introduced like the biggest threat one possible. On top with all these other ones unresolved, which I love so much because we have all of these threads, and I am so excited for any issue to touch on any number of them. And it just makes it such an exciting like journey to be a part of.
Oh yeah. Like it really does feel like just it's wild watching Kirkman develop something, right? Like knowing that it's
he's really weaving a web. Like when you say people are weaving a web, his is a web. Everything is crissing and crossing, and it's a lot.
Yeah, it is so masterful. It is so cool. I do think I almost wish we touched on less strings in this issue, though. Like
there's a lot.
We get a lot of like the cool world building and like threat building stuff in the front, like I don't know.
It's very front.
18 pages of the 22-page book, and then we just kind of get a little bit tacked on for characters that I care less about on the back half. The one character I care quite a bit about, but we get like a little bit more of these this other threat that we have building, and I'm like, I don't quite care about you yet, which is I think the problem that I had last time they showed up as well, where I'm like, ugh, especially when we're doing such a strong like our main character's focused book, it pulled me away a little. I felt a little like I ate my dessert before dinner, you know. So that was my one gripe. But I also just want to toss out because we I think we say it pretty much every time. Lorenzo De Felici's art is so incredible. It does such a good job of, especially now that the Transformers lore is coming in, blending those in such a way that makes this feel very unique. It still feels like Void Rivals. Like the fact that Jay is holding up a page that is like a super close up on Derek's dad, and it's a double splash page. I would not have anticipated something that could have been a panel to have the like gravitas to fill an entire splash. And Lorenzo De Felici pulls it off flawlessly. It's really, really a treat every time reading his work.
Absolutely. It's so well done. And Lorenzo De Felici, man. He can make a moment, and he makes a lot of them in this series.
Oh yeah. How do you all feel about the coming of the Transformers more to the front of Void Rivals? We've got even more Transformers coming in. Are you like us? Have you not touched Transformers lore before, and this is kind of your introduction to it? Or are you a lucky duck?
Well, we've now read a couple holiday specials from I think they're both IDW.
I think so too. Yeah.
So we've read those
and
now
I think
too.
They were both about Starscream.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wacky. So we know about one Transformer. And we read the first 6 issues of David Ward Johnson's Transformers, but
Yes.
in any case,
very good.
Are you lucky enough to already be familiar with, and so you get to have these really exciting moments. How are they landing? Because I am very curious to know how the Transformers fans feel about all of this.
Absolutely.
But that takes us to the end of our reviews for the episode, which means it's time for the pull list rec. Jay, do you have something in mind?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be particularly shocking for anybody. I think we're both going to pick the same.
Yeah, we don't do it on 3.
My pull list recommendation, is going to be
1, 2, 3. The Moon is Following Us, number 7.
Issue 7.
It's so good.
This is the book you got.
Oh yeah,
it's so good. Like, you are really, really missing out if you're not reading this series. I think it is an utter travesty if you are a fan of comic books and you are not reading The Moon is Following Us.
Fully agree.
Genuinely, what are you doing? Like, what is wrong?
What's wrong with you?
Who hurt you?
We've been telling you for months. Go read it.
Yeah.
And it's not too late. I am a big believer in the excitement of a monthly book. You have time. If you catch up now, you've got 3 more issues to
3 more months. Yeah.
To get all these cool conversations in about. But of course, our episodes come out every single week, which means we have books that we're going to be talking about next week. Jay, what's going to be in next week's episode?
Next week, we have a book coming out from friends of this pod, Tim Daniel and DB David Andre. That's going to be Crush Depth issue 1 from Mad Cave. So we're super excited to dive into that brand new series. We're also talking about the second issue of surprise hit series for us, Bug Wars, issue 2, after we loved the first issue of that series. We're jumping into more Daredevil Unleash Hell, which we also love with issue 3. We have the new issues of Nightwing and Titans with issue 124 and 21. Obviously more stuff that we love. And we're getting the 5th issue of Mutant Nation, which we love, but this is going to be a new story that is unrelated to what we've read before, so we will see.
We'll see if it holds up. But if you're a fan
is.
of our reviews of Titans, or if you're a fan of In Hell We Fight, which we've talked about on the pod, keep an eye out. This coming Friday, we should be posting an interview with the man himself, John Layman, writer of Titans, writer of In Hell We Fight, writer of Chew. We talk about all sorts of great things, what's going on with Titans, how he landed the gig, and what
his work on the Scorched, all that great stuff.
Yeah, very exciting stuff.
But that's all we've got for you guys this week. Let us know if there's any other books you would like us to be reviewing that we are not currently talking about down below.
Always looking for our own pull list recs.
Exactly. You guys can wreck us after we wrecked you. And as always, we hope to see you next week. Comic Geeks.